Hello and welcome to Hops and Bros. This week we're going to take a look at adding fruit to beer.
For an open window on the crabby world, Max and Chris from Ups and Brew. Ups and Brew. Welcome to Ups and Bros. Yeah.
So we've just had a couple of very warm days in the summer, and what's better than to enjoy nice cold beer around the pool or on the beach or just outside in general, you know? Canada doesn't have a lot of warm days, so you gotta take advantage of every single opportunity you have. Now, a lot of breweries have been doing a lot of experimentation with different fruits. It's something you didn't see a lot like 5-10 years ago, but now it's kind of, if you don't have a fruity beer in your brewery, what are you doing? You know, people are starting to look for that. Now, there's different ways to see that. First of all, fruits. We use them for sweetness and sourness, or at least that's how they're described. That's how we perceive fruits in general. Sometimes a little more sour, sometimes a little more sweet. Now, we've talked about bitterness in the past. You know, how bitterness was there, evolutionary speaking. Yes, I believe in evolution. Evolutionary speaking was to ward us off from poisons, from some things that we weren't supposed to be eating. Now, sourness and sweetness kind of act in the same way. As sourness kind of warns us that fruit isn't quite ripe enough, so it's not ready to be consumed. As over sweetness, or it's really sweet, then you're getting the most nutrients from that fruit. In beer, we can use this as well. You can, use fruits that aren't quite ripe to get something a little different, or you can use something that's really ripe to get something a little more sweet. Depends also on how you use it in your brew. Now, to start off, what do we want from fruit? Now, there's two big ways that I've seen fruits being used. One is in complement, the other one is in contrast. So complement would be, say you have a very hoppy IPA with Citra, and you want to add grapefruit to it. So you're actually working on the natural grapefruit flavors of your Citra and just adding more to it by using grapefruit. And you can use other fruits like Eldorado. Say you want to add tangerines or oranges to your beer. You're just working on what you already have and adding even more. The other way with the contrast is to go kind of the complete opposite. You know, you've got what's a good example for this? Well, even let's go with the Goza that has fruit in it. You've got your salty, and then you've got your sweetness or your sourness. So you're kind of playing off of those two flavors. Now you can do the same thing with, wit beers or even Berliner Weiss, where you add like that raspberry jelly. So you've got something that's a little drier, a little lighter bodied, and you're adding something super sweet. But that's kind of weird because you're adding that super sweet usually after, it's the jelly you use afterwards. There's different ways to use fruits in your brew as well. How you brew with fruits, you're gonna get different flavors, different success rates as well. Say you use it pre-boil or when you start boiling, you're gonna extract a lot of tannins. It's gonna be a little more bitter than you want, and you're gonna kill a lot of the aromas because they're just gonna flash off as you're boiling your fruit. You can also add it late, when in your whirlpool, when it's the last step of your boil. Now in that case, you're going to modify a bit of the essential oils you have on fruit, so you might get different flavors you weren't expecting, maybe for the best, maybe not. You're also going to kill a bit of the aromas depending on the techniques you use, and also you might kill a bit of the flavors you actually wanted. Now the last one, most important one, most used one I would say, is to add fruit directly to your fermenter. But there's different ways to do this as well. Some people have added fruit beginning of fermentation, but then your yeast is overworking because it's transforming all those easy sugars. Now, we've talked about sugars before. So if you perceive sugar as being very sweet, very enjoyable, your yeast is also perceiving that same sugar as being very enjoyable and transforming a lot more of it into CO2 and into alcohol and into all different esters that you want in your beer. So beginning of fermentation, maybe not. Now, people have been adding it after fermentation. That's not bad either, but you're also changing your essential oils a bit, and because you're going to be carbing your beer, a lot of those essential oils are actually going to vanish from your end result. Not everything, but some of it will. So when do you want to add fruit? It all depends on your beer. Personally, I think it's closer to the end of fermentation. So your yeast is still going to eat a bit of that sugar and still grow a little bit, but you're also going to get a bit of transformation. The yeast is actually going to eat different parts of your essential oils, transform those flavors a little bit. That's one way of seeing it, but there's no right answers. You know, you got to test it out. Maybe you want to add your fruit directly to your bottles. In homebrew, I've seen that before. Kind of interesting. You know, your beer kind of sits in the fruit for a little bit longer, and it's usually post-fermentation, although you're bottle conditioning, so you're going to have exploding bottles. Maybe, who knows? There's a lot of creativity going to adding fruit in beer. Looking forward to seeing a lot more of it. Now, we talked about Radlers last week. This is like completely different, but in a more beery way, I guess, because you're keeping more of the beer intact, but you're also adding a lot of different flavors, you know, sweetness, sourness, flavors from the fruit. So looking forward to seeing more breweries kind of try that out. Try it out with different fruits, because of what I hear, some fruits, you really can't get much from them. Like I've had a couple melon beers. You know, you don't really taste the melon. The melon is kind of mellow in there, so is it better to use extracts at that point? Because that's another thing. You don't have to use the whole fruit in beer. You can use paste, or you can use extracts. Extracts are arguably the best way to do it, in the sense that you can actually control and calculate exactly the amount that you're putting in and what you're going to get from it. Fruits, every fruit's going to have a different ratio in there. You know, it might be a little riper, a little less ripe. You might get a little more sourness. You might get a little more sweetness. With your extract, you're always exactly on point. Or concentrate, I should say. Correct me. Concentrate. The other way, paste, a little more accurate, but you still have, okay, so is it a more concentrated paste or a less concentrated paste? But that's the other thing. I've heard a lot of people kind of not so on board with concentrates. Some breweries in Quebec are almost ostracized because they've been using this. So I want to know what's your opinion. Do you think you should use whole fruits? You should use like extracts, concentrates, or should you use your paste? You know, like there's different ways to approach this. I want to know your opinion. Now, if you like this video, and I know Chris wasn't there, he's actually on vacation, so I have to film this alone. So yeah, please like, subscribe, share the video, and we'll see you guys on the next one.